All right, here we go. I am Eddie, co-founder of Draftsy Fantasy Sports, and this is our first ever Draftsy Sports podcast. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things on this podcast, very loose, very informal, try to keep it fun. We'll be talking about all current events in sports, current events in the world. It doesn't really matter, whatever the conversation brings us to. But we're going to have fun. We're going to get some information out to our Draftsy followers as we're doing this. But most important, we're gonna talk about sports and all the things that we love. I am here today with Needham, another co-founder for Draftsy Fantasy Sports. Welcome, Needham.
Hey, man, what's going on, man?
Another day, man. It's an exciting time of the year right now.
It is. I didn't think that we'd be where we're at today, but we are. So it's a really crazy season this year. Have had a lot of fun with Draftsy and getting that stuff out there for the app. But, really excited to kind of get this podcast going, man.
Absolutely. I think it's a long time coming. I think it's something that we need really reach our followers from an organic standpoint, really just kind of be ourselves and get comfortable. Hopefully we're doing this for a while.
Right. Yeah, no doubt, man. I love it. I love you guys. I love our fans too. We get a lot of great feedback from our fans, some people that are just really involved in it. Some people are like, wow, I think we were talking, we had, over 100 people that started a new draft at the beginning of the playoffs. I was like, that's crazy. So it was really good to see.
Oh, yeah. Beginning of the playoffs. I know that caught me way off guard. I was like, holy cow.
Committed fans, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and that's we talked about that. We're hoping to bring some of these fans in to these talks.
Yeah, exactly.
We are going to be looking for followers and fans of Draftsy to come in and talk with us during these podcasts. So we'll be putting that out there soon, and I'm actually looking forward to that because I think that's what we need. We need to hear from the users and everybody that we have so much in common with. College football playoffs. We are coming down to the wire. We got 2 games left. That's all we got. Notre Dame, Penn State played last night. What a game that was.
Right. And then today's the Cotton Bowl, right? They got the Cotton Bowl going on today? No.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cotton Bowl. Yesterday was the Orange Bowl, right? And it was Penn State, Notre Dame. Yeah, in full disclosure, I am not the greatest of football guys. I've got one team. I'm a Clemson Tigers fan, but we didn't quite do so well this year.
They had a weird season, man.
It did. It's okay, man. Dabo will get it. Dabo will get it.
The ACC as a whole, though, boy, they took it on the chin, especially in the bowl games. We'll talk about that later, but wow. Some unprecedented stuff there.
I'm still sore about Venables leaving, but I can't win them all. I'm glad Oklahoma's got him, but man, I was so sad to see him leave. Anyways, that's old news. That's old news.
Yeah, but it does seem to have had an impact.
No doubt.
But yeah, so we are coming down to the wire with the playoffs. That means that we're coming down to the wire in our Draftsy fantasy leagues too. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are watching closely these last couple games because they're down by a few points in their league with their last chances coming up to catch up, and so it's not only exciting on the national stage, but in the Draftsy leagues as well. So that's pretty cool. I myself, I'm not experiencing that excitement. I got eliminated before the playoffs began. So
I did too, man. I don't think there's one league, not even my solo leagues, that I get. Like I got in the playoffs, but I'm like at last place, man. The bots destroyed me in the solo leagues. I was like, oh my god. So
that Army Navy game, the last week of the season, that game, I just need an Army to win, and I'm in the playoffs. I've never cut it that close down to the last game, and a heavily favored team lost. And it kept me out of the playoffs.
And you're the original creator of the game too. So the fact that you couldn't pull it out just means that it was a really messed up season.
Asterisk next to that, I won my league last year. Okay, I won last year. All right, I
Yeah, okay,
can't win
I
them
got
all
you.
because it starts to look funny if I win them all, right?
I got you. I don't even know who's winning. I haven't even looked at our Founders League yet to see who was winning. I think it's Brian and Rob. I can't remember. One of those guys.
Yeah, yeah. But it's been fun. It's been fun, and my dad is a Notre Dame and Penn State fan. You can't be a fan of two teams, but those are
He
his
is.
top two teams. So I got to watch the game with him last night, and he had a Notre Dame hat and a Penn State shirt on, and he was in a free roll.
Completely
So he didn't
conflicted.
want
He was
to.
just like schizophrenic that day, right?
He's got one team in the national championship. He was
Yeah,
okay with either one, so that was
I
cool.
got you. That's good. Your dad's a good guy,
Um,
man. I'm glad you had a good time.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, speaking of Notre Dame, Penn State, man, what a game. It started off so slow. It started off exactly kind of how I thought it was going to start off. Very low scoring. I mean, the over under on that game I think was 44 and a half or something like that. So everybody thought it was going to be low scoring. And then 10-3 at halftime, kind of right where I thought it would be. I thought that the game would come down to a couple key turnovers. I truly believe that Notre Dame was going to have more turnovers than Penn State, and they did. But it turns out that Penn State's turnover at the point in time that it happened in the game in the fourth quarter with 30 seconds left was crucial. And we'll talk about that. I don't understand why Penn State got away from the running game in the second half, and especially in that fourth quarter when they threw the interception. You're talking about Notre Dame with one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best, arguably. And to throw that interception with 30 seconds left in the game you just can't do that. You give them, basically handed them the game. They get a first down, they're in field goal range, kick the field goal, win the game. Just to put it in perspective, Penn State had the number 59 passing in college football. They were the number 59 team in passing.
Wow.
Not great, not bad,
Yeah.
slightly better than half. But you need to, that's Penn State. They don't typically throw the ball, but Aller, has shown some great passing throughout the season, sporadically. But it's just not what they rely on. And then, to be in that position on the field when they had already gained, their average is 204 yards rushing per game. And they had 202 last night, so their rushing was effective.
Right.
They were 100 yards below their average in passing last night.
Wow.
So why turn to that at that point in time in the game? I get it. Everybody makes mistakes.
Why do you think their passing average? Like, what is it? Just because of Notre Dame's defense was just crushing them on what?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Notre Dame was averaging 1.3 interceptions per game this year, 2.5 turnovers per game this year. They were putting pressure on Penn State all night. That's why their passing was down.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's defense, man, I tell you what, I was talking about this weeks ago. I was talking about the defense. Coming into tonight, I think they had played 14 games on the season. This includes the playoffs. And 12 out of those 14 games, they had given up 17 points or less. 12 out of 14 games, 17 points or less. And they only gave up 24 last night. But it's been incredible. That's what's carried them so far. Now they did get a little bit of a break against Georgia. Georgia.
Yeah. Their quarterback, right? Their head quarterback was out. Is that right?
Yeah. But it's still Georgia. That. Yeah. Okay, so they lose a quarterback. You think they're going to have nobody to replace them? But either way, it impacts the rhythm of the team, and certainly had an impact on that game.
Some people just I was talking to some friends and they were like, yeah, they just didn't think that that Notre Dame belonged there. because of that. And I'm just like, they got there, man. It's that the whole point of football is you take everything on the chin, regardless of what happens. If someone gets injured,
Yeah. It's
that's
next
the whole
man
thing.
up.
Yeah, well, that's the
Yeah.
whole thing about regular fantasy sports and like with pro ball, right? One of your players gets injured, you've lost, or you got to have a swap out. This
Oh,
affected the entire team, so you just
yes.
can't. I mean, when one of those things happen like that, man, it could just really destroy the team. I mean, last year when they did this whole playoff thing, and half the first string didn't play in the playoffs because they were getting ready for NFL. I mean, that affected. It was a
Oh,
horrible playoff
yeah.
season last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And outside of the bracket playoff, and last year was awful. I agree with you. Outside of the top four teams, the games were like, okay, it was like spring teams. It was like the spring sessions where they're trying to
Right.
figure out who's playing next year. Because the
Yeah,
starters
yeah.
weren't there. Everybody opts
No.
out. They transfer. They declare for the NFL. There's nothing luring them to play the game. Risk getting hurt. I see both sides of it. I get both sides of it. But it hurts the fan.
Yeah,
Watching the
man.
game.
Hurts the team. I
But
mean, it hurts the team. The fan, yes, but the team as a whole, it hurts, man. I mean, it's just
yeah,
you've got.
yeah,
I don't know. I think we're talking about that a little bit later in the show, but it's just one of those things that I think that you've got to really see a kind of person you are is really kind of what it comes down to, if you ask me. But
yeah,
whatever.
yes, and we'll get deeper into that too, especially when we talk about Cam Ward later. Um,
Yes.
there's two sides to every coin, and it's just really interesting to talk about. But let's get to the clip of the game last night first,
Yeah,
um,
man.
and just
So
kind of
so cue this up for me. Tell me what we're going to be looking at here.
yeah. So just to get back to the point, like Penn State had 3 rushing touchdowns last night, right?
All right.
And they get away from the rush at the end of the game when it was crucial. You're tied. You're tied at the end of the game. The worst thing that can happen is you go into overtime and you take the ball from the 25-yard line and try to score a touchdown from there. I think they were around like the 30-yard line or something, their own 30 last night, and the ground game had been working for them. And if they don't get it, okay, so you keep the ball on the ground, you keep possession of the ball. If you have to punt the ball away with 10 seconds left, okay, rather than give them the ball on Penn State's side of the field, they get one first down, win the game.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about the couple of times that they did try to pass. They got you'll see it coming up in the clips, but they got incredibly lucky when they did throw a deep ball to the end zone and got a pass interference call. It was the right call. It was clearly pass interference, but the pass shouldn't have been thrown anyways. I mean, they threw it into double coverage, and the guy that created the pass interference actually didn't even need to be there because it was the other guy that came in and just clearly picked it off.
Yeah.
So they got really lucky there, and then they had some really bad timing when they slipped. Penn State defensive guy slipped on a pass and gave up a really easy touchdown to Notre Dame late in the game, kept Notre Dame's momentum going. And then the interception at the end of the
Yeah.
game was just crucial. I
Let's
know
check this
that.
video out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
All
know
right,
that
here it
he's hating
comes.
life tonight.
Yeah, I think anytime you're in one of those situations where it's like career making or life changing things, or like you're right on the edge and you make a mistake, it's like there's been
Yeah.
so many Hollywood movies made out there where like this guy's like, if I could just relive that one dream, I would be a better man,
Yeah.
or I would do
Yeah.
this thing different.
Trust me, Drew Aller, he's still going to do just fine.
Of course.
He's going to remember this play for the rest of his life, but the millions of dollars in the future might soften that blow a little bit.
Yeah. Well, but it's always a steal of a man that can come up from a steal of a person, anyways. Man or female, man or woman that can make a mistake, get back up, and then move forward, and and then not not dwell on that mistake that they made. People make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna play this video. We'll take a look at it, and then just tell me
Sure.
what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
So we knew the game was going to come down to So this was one of the big pass attempts that they did make. I mean, look at all the Notre Dame around it. I mean, look at the screen right there. There's four guys.
Coverage, man. There were so many people there. That's ridiculous.
And number 8, absolutely, it was pass interference by rule. So they made the right call. But it was an ill-advised throw to begin with.
Right.
And that was the kind of coverage that they were facing all night. And that's what came back to bite them at the end of the game, especially throwing it over the middle of the field. You throw a poor throw across the middle of the field. I mean, it's going to get picked off against a defense like Notre Dame's.
Right. You can't do that.
Yeah. So it just came back to bite them. They got lucky on that pass attempt. Then I think the next clip was where
here it is. Right here. We're going to watch it. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah. This was crucial. I mean, Notre Dame didn't move the ball great either. But
bro, that
it was blown coverage, high slips.
Yeah, complete, man.
Yeah, and then this was at the end of the game. Oh God, that's just so hard to watch.
It's horrible.
I mean, where were they? They were inside their own 30-yard line. I just don't understand that pass with 30 seconds left. It just hurts. Hurts to watch that. I don't particularly have a team, that I pull for. But it's just hard to watch. Just in that he didn't sleep well last night. But I mean, the kid's incredibly talented. He's going to do just fine. It just hurts to see that. But
I think after you make a mistake like that, you're probably a couple days, 3 or 4 days, you're probably in the dumps, in your all your friends are like, hey man, you're kind of great. Everyone's lifting you up, but you still have this, this gut feeling where you're like, oh man, that sucks, But
you can't keep the food down for a couple of days.
Yeah, you don't want to eat, right? It's like being lovesick or whatever. I don't want to eat. I can't eat. I can't believe she left me, or whatever. It's that kind of, it's that same kind of feeling, man. It's just a miss like that. It kills you. But whatever. Yeah,
that's the ex-girlfriend that just lives in your head that you can't forget about.
15 years later, right? You're like, looking at them on Facebook. This will be one of those things like, someone plays a game like, do you remember when? And you have to relive the whole thing all over again, man. Oh, how tragic is that, man?
Oh man, it's like me being fortunate enough to not have so many videos to remind me of what happened 15 years ago. Like everybody living today now has to deal with. You've got the memories popping up to remind you. This is going to be one of those memories that pops up that he's just going to want to
It's forever, about. Man.
Probably every Penn State fan too. So on to the next game though, right? That's one game, so we know Notre Dame's going to be there. So first championship appearance for them in the playoff era.
Right, so was that? But the last time in the championship was 2018. Is that right, or 2008? What was the last time they were in the playoffs?
Oh gosh, in the championship game?
Yeah,
maybe. I thought this was their first championship game in the playoff era. I think that they made it to the playoffs in the 14 playoff, but I don't think that they made it to the championship game. I could be wrong though. And as our viewers will certainly find out quickly, we'll probably be wrong about a lot of things as we're talking.
Of course. You can't win them all, man. You can't win them all.
No, you're probably fact checking me now, right?
Yeah, well, ChatGPT, gotta love AI. ChatGPT says they reached the playoff semifinals in 2018 and 2020, though they lost both games, and so they got to the playoffs. So 2018. Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah. But they won by either State or they play tonight. Man, what a difference in the path to get to this game for each team, in my opinion.
Okay, so how? So I've got my own thoughts, but tell me like what do you like? What's your thought here, man?
Well, give Texas, credit, and I don't want to bash Texas because the SEC fans are they're not feeling quite as good as they have in the past. Um, Texas is still there. It's kind of weird because it's their first year in the SEC, and that's the team representing the SEC with 4 teams left. So I don't want to bash them. They've beaten every team that they've played, other than Georgia, which okay, that's all right. Typically, that's not a bad thing. Um, but in the playoffs here, okay, they've played Clemson and Arizona State. Let's just think about. I know you're the Clemson fan. They weren't super powerful this year.
No,
They beat them by 14. Okay, but they gave up a touchdown late. That
yep,
game was closer than the 14-point final.
right,
And then they go and play Arizona State the next game and go into double overtime against them. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, I was pulling for Texas at the start of
mm,
that game, and I flip flopped. I started pulling
really,
for Arizona State. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have no strong allegiance to
right,
either team.
yeah,
But just the way Arizona State came back down by 16, they had to score 2 touchdowns and get the 2-point conversion to tie the game, and they did, which is just
yeah,
highly unlikely.
right.
So it's kind of hard not to pull for them.
Did you have either
But
one in any of your drafts
I did
in
not.
your
The only team that
leagues?
I had in my draft was Ohio State. That was the only
Okay,
team that made the playoffs.
yeah,
And I'd be looking pretty good right now had I made the
right.
playoffs, but I'm not.
Yeah, it gets slim
Uh,
pickings in playoff, bro. If you don't have any of those teams,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so they play Clemson, they play Arizona State. Uh, Not the two most formidable teams in the playoffs. Ohio State has to go through Tennessee and Oregon
yeah,
to
right,
get to this point, and they still got to win 2 more games to win the championship. Imagine
right,
beating Tennessee and Oregon and still having to win 2 more games. Like,
right.
man, that's a tall order right there.
Yeah,
You knock off the only undefeated team in college football last week, and now you get to play Texas. Um,
yeah,
but this is Ohio State. For this point in time in a playoff, they're favored by 6 points.
right.
Last I looked, which is a pretty big spread at this
Yeah,
stage of the game.
yeah,
And
because they've
my
been pretty
opinion,
tight.
oh yeah, real tight, yeah. Outside of the first round or two,
Right.
but
Those are
yeah,
always a
it's
wash.
yeah, the first round, man, that was the first round of the playoff was very not entertaining. Um, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute too, about the teams that did play. But I've got Ohio State winning tonight, unless a fire got lit under Texas by letting that lead slip away last week against Arizona State. Sometimes I can change a team, bring a little bit more focus to them.
Right.
But if Ohio State continues to play like they did against Oregon, man, it's just it's going to be hard to stop them. And I have the winner of this game, whoever it is, winning the next game, winning the championship.
Easy. Okay.
Um,
So you
yeah,
don't think Notre Dame you don't think Notre Dame between Ohio State or Texas can beat either one of them?
look, I have been wrong about Notre Dame from the first round. They could very well win the championship. Okay,
Right.
they
No
could win
surprises.
it all. And for my dad's sake, I'll be pulling for him. All right.
Right.
But it's going to take them. It's not that they haven't proved themselves. I mean, they
Mm-mm.
have absolutely proven themselves on the defensive front. They've been
Yeah.
winning the games with defense. And if they keep that up, sure, why not?
What's their
Who's to say
what's
that
their
they?
defense rank overall this year?
I think I saw sixth
Okay.
overall, I believe, in college football. I mean, it depends on what category you look at. I think that
Right.
earlier today I was looking at turnovers per game or something like that. But they very well could be number one in some of the categories. But overall team defense, I'm not really sure, but definitely top 10 because they've just been solid. A lot of
Mm.
people are going to say that that's because of the caliber of teams that they played all year.
Yeah.
But I think that eventually you have to let that argument go. Yeah, at first glance, if you look at the regular season, okay, doesn't look all that impressive. The loss to Northern Illinois at home is,
Yeah.
it just makes you scratch your head. Like, how does that happen? And here they are playing for the national championship.
Right.
Northern Illinois is sitting at home, with an asterisk that they're playing for the national championship because they beat Notre Dame.
Right.
If Notre Dame wins the national championship,
They'll
there's
say
going to
that
be
they
some
beat.
sort of feeling like we could have done it.
Yeah.
Northern
It
Illinois
could have
has a
been
piece.
us. It could have
It
been
could have
us.
been us.
Right. Right.
If we just didn't lose 5 other games to MAC competition.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's just wild. That's absolutely stunning. But either way, I think that Ohio State's got this tonight. I have been wrong a million times, so I fully
Yeah.
expect to be wrong again. But that's just where my head's at. God, and it's not just how Ohio State has gotten here. They went up 21-0 against Tennessee and 34-0 against Oregon. Like, the game has been over, as soon as it starts. Just the clip at which they're playing, boy, if they keep it up, then it's just, I can't imagine anyone beating them. So,
do you think? Let me question though. Do you think that Texas, like by what, like if Texas pulls it out, like what would need to happen for Texas to pull this out?
Ohio State will have to play like they played against Michigan to close the regular season out.
Right.
Nobody saw that game. Yeah. Nobody. They couldn't move the ball. The play calling didn't make sense. I think they got stopped on fourth down several times that they went for it and didn't get it. They just didn't have the rhythm in that game, and I think that but that was a rivalry game. In Ohio State and Michigan, man, it doesn't get much more of a rival than that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they just came not prepared, and Michigan came in. They had a down year. They won the championship last year, the national championship.
Yep.
And then they had 5 losses by the time they got to the game against Ohio State. So, man, they were making their season with that game. They had nothing else to play for. They were already 6 wins in a bowl game. Whatever.
Yeah.
But to knock Ohio State off at that point in time in the season, boy, I guarantee it felt like a national championship to them.
Oh, I bet.
So if the Ohio State team that played Oregon shows up, they'll beat Texas. Texas has a chance if the Ohio State team that played Michigan shows up. That's all there is to it. But if Ohio State gets the rhythm on offense and they're moving the ball, I don't see Texas keeping up with them.
Well, I'm sure all the Texas fans hope that happens tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it very well could. That's why they play the game. If it was all spelled out on paper, then it'd be a lot less exciting.
Exactly right.
But yeah, so so those 2 games are going to determine. Well, this game is going to determine who joins Notre Dame. But then we have the rest of the college football playoffs this year, the 12-team expansion. Was
What's
it
your
good
feeling
for
on
football or not?
I think it's good that we went to a bracket system because I didn't like the way it was before. I didn't like how they kind of whatever the subjective kind of thought. I think it's better to kind of get to the bracket system. I didn't. Yeah, don't get me wrong. They definitely had some crazy matchups, but some of the stuff just didn't make sense. Like a couple years, whoever they end up taking into the finals, I was like, why? Like I didn't understand. I would prefer to see a pure play, bracket based system because it's totally based on performance of the team at that time.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, man, and this is why it's never ever going to be solved. I thought the perfect number was 8, and I still do. I think 12 is too many. I think the first round bye, especially the way that they do it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. the 8 teams seems to be about perfect, but it doesn't matter if it's 8, if it's 12. I mean, they're talking about moving it to 16. You're always going to be talking about, did they get it right? If you're talking about 12 teams, you're going to be talking about that 13 through 15 that got snubbed or should have made it. If you're talking about 16 teams, you're going to then be talking about 17 through 19 that should have made it. Just like when there was 4, you're always talking about those 2 or 3 that got left out.
So
that's always going to happen.
Do you think that the goal that NCAA football is trying to do is to get like NCAA basketball to try to get like March Madness, that whole kind of craze that goes on with it? I mean, there's a lot of money made during March Madness, man.
Of course. I mean, why not? I mean, college football, there's no secret. I mean, it's the moneymaker. Why not extend that out as far as you can? It makes total sense from that standpoint. Right. But from a logistical standpoint, no, I don't think that you need to. I think that there's enough proof in the season to narrow it down to 8 teams and be like super fair about it. The 12, right. And we have a small sample size. This is the first year. But the 12 that played, if you look at the 4 teams that really probably didn't need to be there, between, what was it, Clemson, Indiana, Boise State. Boise State, I could put up an argument for them because they only had 1 loss, and that was to Oregon by 3 points.
Clemson did not deserve to go. I'll admit that.
No, man, no,
not at all, man. They had way too many losses in the season. I mean, they just. I don't know why they ended up going, but again, and I'm saying as a fan, I'm just wasn't a.
And hey, I have a lot of friends that are ACC diehard. They love the ACC, and you can't say anything bad about it. That's kind of why I like not following the team, because I really feel like I have an unbiased view of things, and the ACC just they didn't cut it this year. Right. There's nothing special going on there this year. And then, you end up getting 2 teams in, them and SMU. It's a cool story for SMU. It's just hard to put up a solid argument that they were one of the teams that, got in. I think they were the last team to get in. I could be wrong, but I think that they were the last team.
So I've got a question for you. So I remember at one year, I don't remember when. Again, this is my ADD kicks in or something like that. But there's were there 47 bowl games this year in total, or I don't. How many were Division I?
Seems high. I think that's high, but you could be right. I think it's right around 40 usually.
Right. But I at one point I thought it was like this crazy marketing blitz of bowl games for people just to get more money in to play the games. Because, I mean, college has always had kind of the bowl game series where they had this kind of special play. College football did, where everywhere else, it's not like there's these things in college basketball like that or whatnot. So football, I would imagine if they did this whole, if they try to do something like March Madness, that they would probably try to bring in all those bowl games to try to, make it this huge kind of competition with everything else. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
Are you suggesting a 64-team playoff like March Madness?
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, well, why not, man? I mean,
hey, in a perfect world, why not? That would be fantastic for a college football fan, right?
Right. I mean, it would be great for Draftsy too, but at the end of the day, just imagine this. What is it? How many weeks is March Madness? What is it? The whole month of March? Is that, or but March and
1, 2, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah, 3 weeks of football, man. I mean, the other thing is that you got games 2 or 3 games every day because there's so many teams. So
yeah, I mean, they're playing games every other day in the first couple rounds, of basketball. Logistically, it doesn't fit into football, but in a video gaming world, man, that would be fun.
Well, I mean, because football is different. I mean, there's a lot more potential for injuries and the quickness of response.
Just the beating that a body takes,
Yeah.
It's hard to recover from that.
It's like the MMA of college football is what that would be like. that series would be just completely brutal on somebody's body.
Yes.
You definitely have some people dropping out at that point from
Yeah.
playing those games.
Oh God, yeah, God, yeah. But I mean, but you talked about the bowl games and the money aspect of it, and the bowl game prior to these playoffs, like that was prestige. They took a lot of pride in making that game and going out there, putting their best effort forward for the last game, to leave on a high note. Um, and now you look at the bowl games and you look at the stands, and there's nobody there. There's
Yeah.
so many bowl games with such low attendance. But I guess the numbers are in the commercials, the marketing sponsors. I guess it's there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. But the excitement around those bowl games has really just kind of dwindled,
Yeah.
and especially with the transfers out, the NFL draft declaring opting out of games. You don't know who's going to be available. But Jesus, I mean, look at this year. Marshall made a bowl game. The
Right.
team made a bowl game, but so many players opted out or transferred that they couldn't field a team. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
that's just
That's
so
yeah, and I guess that's that's my biggest gripe, I guess, is because it's yes, the regular season's over with, right? But
mhm.
imagine a baseball player in the middle of the World Series, series, or in the middle of saying, "Hey, look, guys, I got transferred out. I'll see you later. Peace out." Like that's
Yeah.
or a player in the and I guess is this does basketball have the same issue? I'm not familiar with that as much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that it's quite as in your face, as the football is, but they have all the same rules that apply, and they can opt out.
Right.
I mean, I think that anybody who makes March Madness, the top 64 teams, I think that they're going to play. Nobody's opting out of that. Um, I think it's just a bit of a different nature because there's not as much threat of your career ending with a major
Right.
injury. I think it's really the injury aspect that pushes these opt outs of a bowl game that personally to the players means very little anymore.
Right. Well,
But the
millions of dollars.
potential, right, millions of dollars is potentially what they're losing. So I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. But,
And I
whatever.
guess that's like you talk to somebody that does like risk assessment or whatever. They're looking okay, what are the potential ups and downs, the pros and cons? I can see both sides of the coin. I mean, I get it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
understand. Looking at something and going, man, I can play this and have all the fame and glory, and then or not play this, and I'm guaranteed to pick to get drafted in the NFL for millions of dollars in a contract, plus endorsements, everything else. If I get injured here, my entire football career is potentially over.
Yep.
Or I miss the draft pick because then I have to come in and come in after an injury, which reduces how
Yeah.
much money I could make.
Right. Right. Yep. Um, it's a difficult stance to take. I want to take that altruistic stance, where you play for your team, you stand up for
Yeah.
your team, you finish the season, you do the right thing.
Right.
Now, that's really easy for me to sit here and say, I'm not risking my blown out knee when somebody's angling $5 million in front of my face if I finish the season healthy. It's really easy for anyone to sit down and say that's the thing to do. I think that's the old school way of talking. It's the way that I was raised. You finish what you started. You put your best foot forward, and you're there for your teammates. I
Old school
mean,
values.
yeah, yeah. I wish that it was still that way, but it's not. Things change, and
Yeah.
whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. That's just the
Right.
way it is anymore.
Yeah, you can always gripe
Um,
about the way things used to be, but you got to move forward at the end of the day. The one thing is constant is death, taxes, and change.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Now, on that topic, though, we talked a little bit earlier about Cam Ward. Um, I would much rather prefer uh, a player, it's either you're gonna play in the game or you're not. But when you start the game with your team, um, and then
Yeah.
you after you accomplish your own personal goal, man, that just really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not saying that he did the wrong thing. I'm not saying he did the right thing, you know.
No.
But if you're going to start the game with your team, God, boy,
No bueno,
I would hope,
man.
I hope that you would finish it. You know, if you want to opt out and say like, look, I'm opting out because I am a top recruit. I have an NFL future ahead of me. I'm not going to play in the game for risk of
Right.
getting injured and losing all this money. But when you start the game, be like, all right, cool. There's my third touchdown. See you later, guys. Good luck the rest of the game. And then they go on and lose by 1 point.
Right.
For all those guys that were out there fighting in that last game, and so many of them have no future, and their last memory is that game. And your leader on the team just abandoned you. It's just kind of hard to take. Not saying that I don't understand why it was done. I would just much rather prefer them either play or don't play. Don't leave in the middle of the game and leave your guys just out there alone. So just my take on
Yeah.
that.
I get it. I'm the same way, man. I feel the same way. Again, I'm an old school guy. If you say you're going to do something, do it. I think leaving in the middle of the game is just kind of, crap. But like you said, it is what it is. Nothing we can do about
Yeah.
it. Good luck to him, and hope that he has a great football career. I know for
And
sure that
congratulations to him for achieving that record.
exactly right.
I mean, the most passing touchdowns in a college football career. I mean, congratulations. It's fantastic. Just wish he would have got it done. The game before the bowl game, so he didn't have to subject himself to the scrutiny. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Kind
On
of
to the next.
go figure. No matter at the end of the day, we'll have another game, and we'll see how it goes. So
Yeah.
all right, what's
But
up
yeah,
next,
let's not
man? What do we
forget.
got?
Well, let's not forget. A big thanks to Draftsy for providing us this opportunity.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Our sponsor for the show, right?
yeah, exactly. You want to roll the sponsor clip there?
Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hi there. I'm here to tell you about the Draftsy Fantasy Sports app. Traditional fantasy sports can be stressful and time-consuming.
If I don't get a new quarterback by game time, my whole season is ruined,
I can't wait until fantasy football season.
said no wife ever.
Dude, I don't get it. Like, it needs to be easier. That's where Draftsy comes in. You pick the teams, not the players. Enjoy the game again. Make Draftsy your new fantasy.
There you go. That's it, man. So we've had a pretty good year this year with Draftsy.
Yeah.
Had some
Wow.
new interface designs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So many changes. Adding new games. A lot of
Should be
excitement.
launching those
Man,
next
I
week,
love.
actually.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. I know that there's a lot of testing been going on with that, and what I've seen, it's exciting, fun, gives that daily interactive ability now rather than just relying on that season. So I'm excited about that. We can play that, throughout the rest of the basketball season into the baseball season. But yeah,
So
that team
we'll have three
approach.
games, right? We'll have 3 games. We've got Draftsy, which is the typical league drafting the teams. We'll have
Draft teams, not players.
draft teams, not the players, exactly like our draft fairy said. And then we've got we got perfect pick, which is kind of the same thing. You're picking your team, and then we've got stats on sacks. Talk a little bit about stats on sacks, Eddie.
Well, that's for your number cruncher, man. If
Hi there. I'm here to tell.
Sorry about
that's
that.
your way
That
to
was
get
me
there.
cutting the wrong one. I
That's all
cut
right.
off of you. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, you're yeah, no, stacks stacks on stats. So to slow it down and just get more of that definition through there. So yeah, no, you got a hundred coins, 100 tokens, non-monetary. There's no value there. But you're placing these tokens where you think, your team that you choose, are they going to go above or below their average? If you're talking baseball, are they going to go above, 12 hits in a game or 8 hits in a game, whatever their average is? If it's basketball, you're talking about, steals, assists, points, football,
Rebounds.
passing yards, rush yards. So it's just a fun way to look at the game and whether you think a team is going to go above their averages against the opponent that they're playing. Real simple, but rather than picking wins or losses, how well is that team going to do?
Exactly.
So that's a fun thing to do. Looking forward to getting some feedback on that. And then the perfect picks, you're just seeing who's going to put up the most points, who's going to blow up the scoreboards, accumulate as many Draftsy points as you can. So yeah, excited about this stuff. It's come a long way, and that's a huge thank you to you. Big props on you and the development team. I know it's a lot of work for you guys, and I do not envy you at all.
It's a lot of fun though. I enjoy it, man. I tell you, I've learned a lot in the process of this. I've learned more about sports than I thought. Again, complete transparency. The whole thing. Clemson football, man. I mean, I was a big Clemson fan back when Danny Ford was was their coach. Loved the team, but as I've gotten involved in this, I've learned more about the game. There's no betting in the app, but I've learned about that because people ask a lot of questions about it. We've got some new concepts coming out. We're going to look at point spreads and a new game that we're going to start developing called Pick'em. But it's definitely, I've learned a lot, and it's really exciting for me to be a part of a great group of people, and also just always learning, doing something new that we haven't done before. And there's nothing. I mean, I've seen there's some people in the market that they're doing something like it, but there's nothing like what we're putting together in the app.
Absolutely nothing. And we've looked high and low, to try to find something, and it's just not out there. And I feel awesome that I can confidently say that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something that clicked in my brain here. That we are not a gambling app. This is not DraftKings. This is not FanDuel.
Right.
We're not offering, give us $5 for $200 a play. That's not us. It's just an organic place to have a friendly competition with your friend, play for a bag of chips or whatever. That's on you. But this is just for your average sports fan to have something to follow.
So Eddie, I think it'd be really, if we talk really quick about the reason you came up with this concept long time ago, and it's kind of morphed into what it is now. But all the partners and I, we're all really busy, and none of us have time, or maybe some of us have more interest in playing, player-based fantasy sports versus kind of team-based. What's the big approach? Like, why do we, why is this a differentiator for us versus anything else that's out there for like a player base? I mean, why doesn't player-based college exist already?
Well, there's too many players, and especially the turnover. I mean, good Lord, following the transfer portal, watching, one player go from one team to the next, there's too much to keep track of. And, at the most they're playing 4 years, and most players are playing less than that, even, if they're moving on to the NFL. But what it allows us to do is it takes almost the same numerical platform, like the same pool for drafting that you see in the NFL. Yeah, most NFL drafts have about 15 rounds, and we can support 15 rounds of drafting college football teams with most leagues. We offer anywhere from 2 to 12 people in a league. And so obviously the fewer number of people in the league, the more teams you'll draft. But the very least number of teams that anybody will draft is 10, and that's in a 12-person league. That's 120 teams that get drafted. There's 132, 133, maybe even 134 teams in college football now, but it still fits the bill. And it just allows, it brings so much more excitement to the game. All of a sudden, you're following every single college football game, going on every week, and you're not just following one team. It's an accumulation of, anywhere from 10 to 15 teams, and they all need to do well. There's going to be wins and there's going to be losses every week, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and rather than the heads up weekly thing that NFL does, you're playing against everybody in your league every week. Your teams are competing against everyone. High score for the week wins, and from there on down. But it just brings a broader appeal and an opportunity for college fantasy football that works. The player-based approach just doesn't work. And what we learn, through doing this is that we can apply this to all sports. It doesn't just have to be college football. Right. You just reduce the size of the leagues to 4 players or 5 players, and you can still draft, 7 NFL teams, or, in a 4-person league, that's 28 teams. You still got teams left over,
Yeah.
In any case, not to get too much into the weeds and the details of that, it just offers an opportunity to present a fantasy option that didn't exist before. We looked around and we saw that there were, a smattering of NFL style college leagues where you're drafting players, but there's a very small following there, and there's too many numbers and too much. Nobody needs that stress in their life, and it's just an easy approach. It's a fun approach. It created a life on its own here over the years, and it's just fun. I don't know what else to say. It opens up your mind to college football. You're watching San Jose State play Hawaii at midnight on Saturday. When are you ever watching that game? Otherwise,
right. Exactly, and getting excited about it. And I think also part of it that's interesting to me too is that in the game you don't have to. In Draftsy, there's nothing that you have to continually go through and change. You don't have to go through and update a bench, or you don't have to go. You set it and kind of forget it and just enjoy the game. Week after week after week, you get the opportunity to do that without having to stress about it. And I own a couple companies. I know you're busy. Our partners are busy. A lot of our players are just busy. We've got just very busy, don't have time. And so the thing now is that you play the game, and now you just sit back and razz your buddies about how you beat their butt, or how they get to razz you, and you're like, yeah, I'll get you next week. It's different.
Yeah, and the last I want to say about it is the obvious thing is a player goes down in NFL, your quarterback goes down in NFL, dude, your season's over. Good luck picking up a guy off the bench. It's possible, it's possible. But unlikely that you're going to get someone to replace them that's as effective. In college football, a player goes down, it doesn't necessarily ruin your season, So there's that part of it, and it's exciting. I love to see where it's gone, and presents us this opportunity here to sit here and goof around talking about college football and the bowl games, and it's just opened up a world that's I didn't know would exist, So here we are, and we get to talk about the bowl games, and just talking about we talked a little bit earlier about the teams that didn't make it. We talked about that, expanding to the 16 teams, or is 12 the right number? Is 8 the right number? And you look at the first round of what happened this year and the non-competitive games that were played for the most part. And then you look at the next teams that were talked about joining in, the ones that got left out. You got Alabama, South Carolina, Miami. They were all in the top of all the talks about getting left out. Alabama lost to Michigan. South Carolina lost to Illinois. Miami lost to Iowa State. You got to go and look down. Other than Ole Miss, you got to get to number 17 BYU that won their bowl game, and BYU wasn't really in the talks. So Did they get it wrong? Probably not. And it's hard to use those other bowl games. Alabama, South Carolina, Miami. They were missing a few players in those games that opted out or transferred, but so it's hard to draw that comparison on if they would have done the same had they made the playoff. But what I'm trying to say in a long-winded explanation is that based on the first round of the college football playoffs and the non-competitive nature of the teams that they allowed in, and then you look at the results of the bowl games of the teams that were talked about that got snubbed, there's too many teams. You don't need 12. You certainly don't need.
Are you saying there's too many teams that got snubbed, or too many teams altogether?
Too many teams altogether. Okay. I mean, the teams that got snubbed, most of them lost the bowl games that they played in outside of the playoff.
Right.
And then the first round of the playoffs, they were fairly non-competitive. So I just think that there's too many. I would have liked to have seen Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the only team that seems to have made sense that maybe should have gotten in above, let's say, Indiana or SMU. It seems to me that was the team that probably got snubbed the most. And I'm not really an Ole Miss fan, but just looking at their schedule and the attack that they have, it would have been fun to see them compete. It would have been fun. But yeah, eight for me is the number. I think that there's just too many teams. I think that you can narrow it down to who deserved to be in the playoff, get rid of the first round bye, narrow it down to 8. You still get the same number of games. Just my 2 cents for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I mean, the bye thing threw us for a loop a little bit this year in the app, but I didn't really. Yeah, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, like how they determined who got the bye and all the other stuff. Again, I didn't really keep up with the whole thing, but
so I guess the rule is that it's the when the rule was first made, there were a Power 5 conference, but the Pac-12 is now the Pac-2, which is weird to look at. But anyway, so that's thrown out. Now you got the Power 5 conferences that are now the Power 4. You got the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC. So the winner of those conferences get a first round bye. And then what was it? Boise got a first round bye, right? So why did they get a first round bye again? I'm thinking out loud here. So bear with me. They were higher ranked. Yeah. Okay. So that's what it is. So I guess they took the Pac-12 spot. And if the winner of the Mountain West Conference was ranked higher than any one of the Power 4 conference winners, then they would get the bye. So Clemson won the ACC championship game, but they were ranked behind Boise State, who won the Mountain West, and that's why Boise State got the bye instead of Clemson.
Okay.
So the byes in general are strange because you're essentially saying, you're creating a scenario where you're giving a bye to a team that theoretically doesn't deserve it.
Right.
They're not technically one of the best 4 teams.
Well,
they could be, but
and to me, like I hear you say that, and again, I don't. It seems to me you're saying, those are the biggest conferences in the nation, right? That's basically these larger conferences. You just call them the Big 4. Is that what you call them?
The Power 4.
The Power 4.
Yeah,
the Power 4. Yeah, Power. Yeah. So then basically what you're saying is all these other ones like MAC and all these other ones just are they. And is it because they make the most money? Is it because they've got the best teams? Is it because they have the most viewership? Like, why are they the Big 4? Like, why are they the Power 4? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's the money. They should just call it the Money 4. The Money 4. Just call it.
It's money.
It's all
it's
about
talent.
money. Yeah,
but the money brings in the talent. It attracts the talent. It's just you can't compare the SEC to the Sun Belt.
Okay. it's like in boxing, right? So everyone watches the heavyweight fights, right? Not, everyone watches the big title fights, but no one watches like the really small guys fight. And I mean, sure, no offense to, all the guys out there that are boxing, God, I would die in a boxing room with probably the crappiest player. But my point is like, that's what we're talking about is we're talking about basically what people are watching. And the Power Four is where all the money's made for NCAA.
That, I mean, let's be honest. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean,
it's always about the money.
You can't. No sense in beating around the bush there. That's what it comes down to. But that is where the talent is. That's where the more competitive games are. So I do get why those are the conferences. And there is, to be fair, the college football playoffs are still set up to allow one non-Power 5 team in. The highest ranked team that is not a Power 4 team, the highest ranked non-Power 4 team does get in. And that was Boise State. They just happened to win their conference as well. But they're in a non-Power 4 conference. It's convoluted, and I'm sure that there'll be more changes and tweaks made to it, as they learn from this year and future years. But that's the way it is. College football's got a little bit more complicated than than it used to be, between the 12-team playoff and the NIL and the bowl. And man, it's there's a lot of moving parts right now.
But you know what? People are still going to play it, man. It's one of the largest. What's the revenue in college ball now? I don't know, in the billions.
The industry, I think, is in it's been a little while since I looked at it, but like the $70 billion range. Yeah, the college football industry. It's wild. Second.
Good.
Go ahead. I'm just saying it's the second most popular sport in the country. They overtook baseball years ago.
Right, but second to soccer, right?
Not in this country. In the world, soccer is number one.
Of course, yeah.
Football,
yeah. But in the United States, it's second to NFL. That is what you're saying.
Second to NFL, yes.
Right.
College football, second to NFL. Mm-hmm.
Right. There's so much money in that industry right there. It's ridiculous.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. But hey, we're there. Hopefully, we get a little piece of that.
We'll see how it goes. Hey guys, by the way, if you like our podcast, like what we got going on, make sure you subscribe, whatever you're watching this on, whether it be YouTube or Twitter or whatever you're looking at. Just subscribe to us. Let us know if you got any comments or anything like that you want to talk about, any love or hate towards anybody, anything we're talking about. Just put it out there. We'll respond to you. Yeah, we accept it all, man. We're out here just trying to have a good time, have a new experience for you guys. So like and subscribe at the bottom, and let us give us a little bit of love.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll be bringing some of the viewers and commenters into our conversations in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Because we're coming into basketball season, and after baseball, baseball is my least favorite sport. I just can't get into it. I know I've pissed off a lot of people with what I just said. I just can't.
You're not seeing anything on the wall behind you? Why do you got to say that, man?
Yeah, I get it, bro. You're a big Braves fan. I know it. I got a buddy of mine, Jeffrey. He's the same way. He loves some baseball, man. He could hours talk about baseball. But it is absolutely. I will watch a game if I go to the stadium, but I can't. It's like watching golf. I'll fall asleep, and whatever. Again, I think golf is cool, but again, I'm not a sports guy, so it is. But I think that. I like basketball a little faster pace, a little bit more, but we're getting into that season, so we'll get a good chance to talk about it more. So if you guys, any experts out there that are basketball experts, we're more than happy to have you on the show. Let us know.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you and see what you got. But that's it for the podcast advertising of us trying to push our brand.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are we doing this once a week? We'll do this again next week.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do it. Right now we're doing pre-recordings until we figure the format out, and then we'll probably start going live here once we get everything squared away. I think we're recording now on Friday. What's that? Just January 10th. Again, you guys could figure that with the games. And it is snowing right now outside, man. It is really snowing. It's crazy. So
And
a
I'm
little
jealous.
winter
I'm
storm.
jealous. Good. Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind watching the snow. I just don't want to live in it.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
I don't. I was running late to the podcast because I was in the snow driving
Yeah.
back. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
But so what do we got? We got fantasy hot takes coming up next. Is that what we're talking about, or what's the next thing on the list?
Yeah. Yeah. So the fantasy hot takes, now that we're winding down on the college football, not too many hot takes there, but the college basketball, like you kind of mentioned there at the end, it's January. College basketball right now is full throttle. You're into conference play now. Every game is important now. The guys, you start looking at March Madness now. You'll start hearing about that bubble watch coming up. And I've always started watching college basketball. I really start getting into it in February. You start getting into those last conference games where every game means something. But so that's where we're at now. And with you can get into the app right now and play in a college basketball league.
Mm-hmm.
That's the great thing about Draftsy is that you don't have to be there before the league starts. You can start a league at any point in time during the season. And now would be a great time because the conference games are so entertaining.
Yeah, you said a bubble watch. What is that? I've not heard of that before. What's a bubble watch?
So the bubble watch, you'll start hearing more about that towards the end of February, maybe mid-February even. But it's all the teams that are on the cusp of that 64 team field in college basketball for the March Madness tournament. And so you have a bunch of teams that are on the bubble, and they'll start talking about, man, if they want to get into the tournament, they better win 2 out of the next 3 conference games, or you'll have to make a run in the conference tournament playoff. The bubble is those teams that are on the edge of being on the outside of the tournament.
Okay, so help me understand this then, Eddie. How do in basketball again? How do they determine the 64 teams? What determines whether you make it into the top 6 or the 64 playoff?
Oh boy, yeah, you're testing my knowledge now, but I know that the conference tournament champion an automatic bid, and then there is top 25 automatic bid criteria, and then you have at-large bids, and that is just the committee, kind of like football. You got a committee that looks at strength of schedules, quality wins, and then they determine those remaining at-large bids. Usually there's only a handful. But yeah, you got the conference tournament winners, and then there's top 25 criteria. Forgive me, I don't know specifically exactly what that criteria is, but it's it has to do with the rankings. If you're a team on the outside looking in, and this has happened, man, this has happened a few times. You could be 17-21, with a losing record, or 15-23 on the season, and no shot in hell at making the March Madness tournament. But if you pull off, an incredible run and win your conference tournament, you're in. You're into the March Madness tournament. Yeah.
Okay.
That has happened a few times. It's kind of like that Cinderella story. Usually it results in a 16 seed and getting clobbered by a number 1 seed. But hey, at least you got there.
Yeah, you're there, right? We made it to the March Madness. Yeah. So
yeah, and for some schools, that's a huge deal. That exposure. You're talking about schools like Robert Morris and Oral Roberts, and I remember when Gonzaga was one of those teams. Just getting to the tournament, they're like, "Oh my God, we made it!" Now, like they get to the tournament. Yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
I'd never heard of Gonzaga. Yeah.
I remember when they hit the scene, man, and it was just like I was a Gonzaga fan immediately. They were the Cinderella story, and now if they don't make it, it's a shock if they don't make the tournament.
Right.
But that's the great thing about March Madness. I mean, you can see anybody there. I mean, you had George Mason made the Final Four a few years ago, I think. VCU made the Final Four. It's just it's an exciting time, and right now it's kind of like the kickstart point in college basketball for that excitement to start growing.
Right. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
these crazy teams that get through and you're like, how did they do that? But luck or whatever, whatever happened, somebody slipped on the court or something like that. Who knows? I mean, it's just these just and that I think that adds to the excitement, like you'd said earlier about that whole process, and that was kind of what I was talking about. I think would add to the excitement if football could be this thing, but I mean the grind, like we talked about, of having to go through that many games of football would just be ridiculous. So.
Yeah. For those teams to make it, I mean, they've got to be peaking at the right time, and they got to catch, the more proven teams or the teams better on paper. They got to catch them on a off day,
Right.
But it happens. It happens all the time in college basketball. And with and don't forget college basketball, the portal and transfers. It doesn't just apply to football. It's open to basketball as well. It's open to all sports. And you can see what it did for the competition level in college football this year.
Mm.
One thing I forgot to mention was the records in bowl games in the conferences, which were unreal. The SEC went 8-6 in bowl games, which is typically they're at least 9-2 or 7-3 or not quite so close to that 500 number. The Big Ten went 9-5. They've been doing the best. The Big 12 went 4-5.
Right.
ACC went 1-10. And this is as of today,
Right.
not including yesterday's game. But that transfer portal and the ability to move around has spread that talent out. You got a guy. In years past, Alabama's number 2 running back wouldn't see the field, but for maybe a few minutes out of a game, and that same guy could be setting records at other schools, and he just didn't have that chance. You couldn't transfer out, or you had to at least wait out a year. So I really do believe that is creating a higher competitive level in general, just throughout the general season. And I think you're starting to see that with college basketball as well.
Mm.
The March Madness is getting really harder to predict.
Mm.
So it's exciting. There's a lot of haters about the portal, but I do believe that it's led to more competitive games.
Yeah, we'll see how the season goes, man. I mean, I think every time there's always some upset, that happens in every.
Oh
season.
yeah. Oh, it's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Yeah. So basketball season will be fun, and I'm anxious to see the followers and the users, get into that and see that grow, because that's a real exciting aspect of the app.
Yeah, and you can play. I mean, single player games are free, so you can start up a single player game.
Yeah,
check it
absolutely.
Out, Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah. All right. So what's next? What do we got next? Let's see.
Down to interactive Q&A. I think we talked a little bit about what did you want to talk about, tips and tricks, or?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, one of the things, I don't have the app pulled up, but I know one of the things that we had talked through is one of the things in the app that you could do to kind of prepare for a draft is kind of create your pick list. There's a feature in the app that you can make your list, right? You can go through, pick your sport, and then pick the teams that you want to have. And then through the drafting process, instead of scrolling through the long list of teams, then you can actually just pull from your list and it'll tell you which ones that you're not. So if you're not using the list feature in the app, it's definitely a good way to kind of prepare to look, because in the middle of a draft pick, you've got people waiting on you and all this other stuff. And especially if you're doing it in person, like in the background, you got the draft board. So if you got a draft kit and you got everybody there, if you've kind of prepared, then you're ready to go. You're not waiting all this time to do your in-person draft versus that. So I think the list is a really good feature for people to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. And eventually we can add some automated drafting from that list. We don't have that right now. I know a lot of people have asked that, like if I create a list and I can't be at the draft, will it just select, that next team that I put into my list? And we don't have that right now.
No.
But
yeah, it's a good feature to have. I think it'd be a good way to kind of auto pick. Definitely sucks when if you miss your draft, or if you get called out in the middle of the draft, when you get picked some rando team from, whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get this pick? What happened? Well, you got to be present for the draft. You got to pick your team.
Got to be accountable, man. You got to be accountable.
That's it.
You got to show up.
That's it. Yeah. So, did you guys do a in-person draft this year, or did y'all do it all in the app?
Yes, we did. We did an in-person draft this year, and I do believe that our draft was one of the very first that went off without a hitch. From first pick to last pick. For those users out there, this was really kind of our first year going full bore with the draft on the app itself. And that was super, super exciting. And I know that my league really, really enjoyed it. But we were able to draft live just like that board right there. Yeah. We had the stickers, and you make the pick on the app and then put your sticker up there, and people love doing that, having that tangible sticker in your hand and going up there and surprising everybody with your pick, Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
But we did ours in person this year. But I know several leagues that had people spread out throughout the country that did it, and that's what it's all about. That's what we want,
That's good, man. That's good.
Yeah. Well, how about you? Did you?
I didn't. I'm probably doing, because I'm in the development side. We're probably doing 15 to 20 drafts a day, just to do testing and stuff like that. So I get a bit lost in the drafting. Yeah. I get a bit lost in the drafting process, and so we've got test environments and stuff like that. So when I get back in the app that's in the Play Store, it's like, okay, what feature set don't we have yet? Okay, it's a completely different world, man. Because when we're doing the development side, I've got all these features that we've got that we're developing and that I'm testing. Then I go back in the app, and I'm like, oh wait, we don't have that feature yet. What? And then so I'm having to like relearn the app, because I'm in the newest app all the time. But yeah, I didn't do any in-person drafts. I think we did a draft with you guys last year when we were kind of going through the pain that it was of drafting last year in the draft. It was very painful, but super critical that we were able to be there, because we actually found the issue that was causing us so much pain.
Yeah, of course.
But that's the fun part about development, is that we were to geek out just for a second, when we were looking at transaction logs and all the other stuff, like why was the draft failing? And it all came down to a time clock sync issue was kicking our butts. And we couldn't see it because we had to have all the phones connected. So anyways, it was a lot of fun.
You might as well be talking another language right now, man, because that's your world. I have no freaking clue what all that's about. But God bless you for all the hell that you've been through.
Hell yes, that's another word for it. We'll go. we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Yeah, makes you a stronger person, right?
Yeah. What does it? What they say? Does it kill you? Makes you stronger.
Kill you makes you stronger. Yeah.
Exactly right. I must be Goliath at this point, or Hercules, one way or the other. So.
Yeah,
I think I got more white hair this year, but it's all good. I'm having a good time doing it, so no complaints from me. No complaints.
My hat on.
Yeah, that's it. So, all right, man. Well, I think that's it for the show this week, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I know we talked a lot about college football, and we'll probably next week talk a lot about it too as things wrap up. Actually, I think next week we'll still have a game ahead of us yet. We'll have the championship game ahead of us.
January 20th, right? That's the date. The 20th, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. So I'm gonna make my pick. I know you're gonna go for Ohio State. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Texas. I'm gonna pick Texas just to say it. We'll see it. I'll play the opposite side. And hey, at the end of the day, if you win, great. If I win, great. But we'll see who it goes. I'll be rooting for Texas. So.
Well, the good thing for you is that most people hear me make my pick, and then they take the other team. So you should be good to go. I have a strong record of losing.
Good.
So I like
the odds are in my favor, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And we'll talk more about that next week, and then eventually we'll start getting more into the college basketball scene. As we wrap up the college football season.
Excellent. All right, Eddie. We'll see you next week, and you guys take care, and make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Let us know if you got any questions. You guys have a great one. Take care.